Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us here today. Super excited for our guest. We're going to dive right in. My first question is, how has your vision for Mighty Networks really either changed or evolved as a result of AI?
Yeah. So let me just take a step back with what is Mighty Networks and why we exist. So fundamentally and very selfishly, I want to live in a world where every person on the planet is a member of 3 or 5 just absolutely killer communities for their professional interests, for their personal interests, for health and wellness, for everything they want to do. And that these are communities that help them achieve results and transformation they can't get on their own. And if we do our jobs right, we've also unlocked the ability for anyone, anywhere to make the best friends through these experiences in ways that just aren't possible today. And so that's been the vision of Mighty Networks. We believe fundamentally that the way that this world, is ushered in is by giving every creator, entrepreneur, person who raises their hand and says, hey, that sounds really good, and I want to bring people together around this transition or this transition in their lives, a network effect, the most powerful business asset that has ever been created, which basically just says the power of the network, the value of the network goes up with each new person who joins and contributes. And up until this point, a network effect has been basically something that big tech creates and everybody else has to go build an audience. And Mighty Network exists to basically usher in that new world by saying, actually, everybody can have their own network effect. And to do that, we actually have to create software that makes it easy for anybody to basically pull in 10 people and for those 10 people to find the most interesting among them, build relationships, and then have lots of reasons to bring new people in. And so we spent the first, 6 years of Mighty Networks' life building out the foundational pieces just to make it possible for people to come in and do the things that they would want to do. Meet each other, message, chat, have a feed where they're able to ask questions and have polls and post, simple enough post. And then layering on top of that all the other things that our hosts, as we call them, but that would be creators or entrepreneurs or brands, want, like the ability to go live and live stream and the ability to have live chats, the ability to run online courses. So we've had this really interesting product evolution where we're doing a bunch of the things that people who want to create these networks want, and at the same point in time, building out all of the things to make that network effect happen, namely that ability to create first experiences for members where they're instantly connected to the most relevant members, where the software can actually break the ice, that what is surfaced are questions and polls and icebreakers that allow people to start to build relationships with each other. So just even as I'm explaining this, you can see how, before the latest opportunities with AI, like we knew we were going to have to build a lot to make this idea of dynamic introductions and dynamic even meetups, the idea that you could use software to do all of the hard work that gets people to show up in person together, with a lot of things to talk about. And when we saw the opportunities specifically with OpenAI and ChatGPT, we jumped on it because what it meant was we now all of a sudden could take all the things that we had been building and knew worked to make these connections and now actually use data and natural language to be able to start making these connections for whatever the topic of the network is. That has been a home run. So we call it people magic, because it's the way we use it at Mighty Networks is we've built all of this advanced technology that allows for these connections to happen. And then we layer in GPT-4 to be able to say, hey, Jared, Stefan, this is what you guys have in common. And these are the similarities. These would be the things that you'd probably want to talk about. And now what we're doing is looking for more and more ways for those combinations and those that relevancy for members to be able to start to build those relationships and then go do things together, whether that's take a course, whether that's, meet up live in person, whether that is, launch a business or build a running club, or all of those things that have actually up until this point been very hard. And, in many cases, really, really a grind to get right. Now with what we've built with People Magic, it's becoming taken care of by the software. And that's very different, as, Stefan and I, talk about, and he tells me to tone it down, which is, the alternative is mediocre content. And, AI should be used for more than mediocre content. And certainly I think People Magic is a great example of that.
I couldn't agree more. Let me just think for a second. So we People Magic really is designed to create a more robust community of people. So that's net good for the world, because we all know that the kind of happiness as one ages, and the Harvard study over 75 years has shown this, like the depth of connections that you have to people are what drive your long-term satisfaction, more than money, more than anything else in the world. And so when I first heard you talk about People Magic, it got me thinking that, okay, look, that can help create a stronger set of communities around shared interests and topics, which is key. But the challenge has always been, who do you have on the other side? Who's the mod who can actually be the smart person to kind of engender those conversations, make them happen,
Right.
add the spark to get them to go? And so really, and that's what I want to kind of get to here is, with
Sure.
HumanX in particular, we're trying to focus on practical applications of AI. How does AI make life demonstrably better? Not just what the stuff it could do in the future and all the cool flying cars we've seen. That's all awesome. I love that stuff so much. Like, how do businesses, how do enterprises take advantage of this Promethean technology to add value today? And so if I recall back, and I just love your confirmation on this, People Magic really has those kind of two things that make it successful, which is it can create better communities, but it actually allows to create better communities, you have to have someone who actually can help create them, and that's all automated as well. So that's the magic of the AI.
Right.
Okay, let's.
Yeah. So, the expectation that people have to be great community builders. Well,
Right.
there's a whole set of things that even if you wanted to be a great community builder, even if you are a great community builder, without software, there's just no way you can scale. Like, there's just no way you can scale.
Yeah. So maybe can you give me an example of someone who's used it to do that? Because I think that's the critical thing. You could have a book club. We all have that, or well, we used to have that. But we all have a book club, and you can now I just read TikToks. But and you can manage that. 6 people you can manage. But if you have a community of 600,000 people or 6,000 people, yeah, you can. So are there communities that have been using People Magic that have shown this demonstrable scaling that otherwise wouldn't be possible with humanity?
Yeah, but I would even say for those 6 people, what you had to do to get those 6 people to show up at your house on a Tuesday night at 7 p.m. used to take maybe 4 or 5 messages, and now it takes more like 40 to 50. Probably not an exaggeration when you start to just think about and it's done really inefficiently, like over text.
Yeah.
So when you start to think about how do you bring people who don't know each other together,
Right.
or are just meeting together, and you're trying to find ways to make those connections, you actually can't do it without
Yeah.
the help of software today.
Yeah.
So I'll share a couple of things which I just have been a little jaw dropping for me. Number one, since introducing People Magic back in late January, our retention across networks, so members staying in communities, the number of communities that are also successful faster has gone up significantly. So what that means is that it is achieving our goal of making it radically easier to create and grow a community. Because again, if we're never going to get to that world where every person on the planet has multiple of these if we can't get more of them created.
Yeah.
So certainly ease is one of them. But then the other piece that's been really interesting is that, we've seen just extraordinary profit being generated. So we have had more $1 million communities created in the last 12 months. And certainly that number is spiking in the last 6 since we launched People Magic than at any point in time before. And, in a world where people are used to, well, you got to grind it out with content.
Yeah.
It's all about content. And looking at AI as oh my gosh, it's going to help me with that content I have to grind out every day to just keep an audience and keep an audience engaged. At some point, I was thinking about this morning. At some point, people are going to figure out that actually having an audience versus having this kind of network effect or creating this kind of people magic where the people are actually talking to each other and building.
Right.
At some point, we're going to see a moment where it's just going to become undeniable. It's just going to become so obvious. We're not there yet, which is the head scratcher for me, because I see these results and you can see these results on Mighty Networks today, but you can also just see them out in the world. This week alone, Facebook Meta is a $1.29 trillion business. That's a network effect. They've created People Magic. Warner Brothers Discovery, Disney, Paramount, those are audience businesses. They're not doing that well. They just took multi-billion
$9 billion,
dollar,
$7 billion right down.
right.
Yeah, exactly.
And yet, think about how much time, especially on social media, we talk about audiences and content and storytelling and all of this stuff. And I just sit there and I'm like, we're teaching people to build shitty businesses.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, we're, the technology is getting to the point where, the technology is there. I think, the things that need to happen for it to become just so obvious you can't ignore it. I think those are still happening. But anybody who's paying attention is like, oh, I want that.
Yeah.
I want that.
Yeah. That's a great contrast.
Gina, I think that could be a viral GIF if we ended up clipping it. You looking from both sides, because you could use that for so many things, right? Yeah, that was good.
I think we should keep that.
I'm gonna ask a question, kind of on, not to. I'm a super positive person, but I do want to put out. We do hear the negatives out there, right? Mainly the people trolling, but we'll give into what some trolls do. So a lot of people will say that, AI can be viewed as impersonal. So I would like to hear, how do you ensure that features like Make It Better and Profile Assist actually they enhance the user experience without compromising authenticity, which obviously is critical to community building.
Yeah. So, let's just take a step back. I don't know that AI is impersonal. I think it's a reversion to the mean. It tends to use a lot of words, and it tends to be talking in voices that you're like, really? And even when you're like, hey, make it sound like X, it's like, oh, okay, that's that. Okay, whoa, well, all right, like that's interesting. So we've done, I think, a very good job of prompting at scale such that you're getting into the way that natural language can be used to make connections between people. And the other thing is we're talking about real people. So Profile Assist, for example, it's there to make it really easy for more and more people to have profiles. Why? So that we can use it, AI again, to show similarities. So what is there is you answer 3 quick questions, and then it's just about taking it and like forming those 3 questions into something that becomes really fun for that person to post and really fun for other people to see. So I think that's how it works, and how we're ensuring that it is not feeling like a robot. Now, that being said, I would also like to contrast using AI to connect real people to each other versus what are some of the romantic versions and visions from a lot of technologists who are like, imagine a world where you have a AI therapist who is who is only patient, that is only nice to you, that is only X, Y, or Z. And when I hear these visions of the future, my reaction is, great. So we're going to basically put people in a bunch of bubble wrap, and we're going to create sort of this false sense of what human interaction is. And then we're going to expect all of these people to occasionally interact with each other, like at the
people.
airport.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, my my joke to myself is like, when everybody's flying to Mars, you're still sitting next to someone in the aisle. Like so you got to so I think we're doing a disservice to use AI to replace people. And that's a lot of the vision out there.
Yeah, that's great.
And my point is, no. Actually, let's look at AI in the form of becoming the world's greatest hosts. Hosts that at their core bring real people together to meet and build relationships with each other. So how do we use AI to help us with all of the things that we've got to get through if we're gonna tap into the things that make us human beings and make us happy human beings, like other people, like going on quests with people, taking on challenges, navigating and seizing opportunities. That is where happiness comes from. Relationships are super important. And I truly do not understand how using AI to make and build relationships, as opposed to, oh, I want to have a relationship with AI. I don't understand the difference. I was sitting on a plane. This was probably 4 years ago. Yeah, I think it was 4 years ago, with sort of one of the big thinkers in AI, who now, did one of those startups that then didn't get acquired by a large company. And he was telling me his vision of what AI should be, and it's going to be an assistant, and it's going to be with you all the time. And I'm like listening to this, and I'm like, it sounds a lot like the movie Her. And he's like, yeah. and my response to that was, we can do better than Her.
Yeah, we should.
We can do better. We can do better than this. And yet those are the people that have have the platforms. Those are the people that are they're probably having the platforms at HumanX. But I think that there's an opportunity, and this is why I'm really excited about the conference, is I think there's an opportunity to say there are multiple visions of where this goes. And, this is one of my favorite parts about being a technologist is roll up our sleeves and who's going to get there first? Is it going to be our vision at Mighty Networks for a world where every person is a member of 5 absolutely amazing communities with other human beings? Because it turns out when you can create super nodes and hosts that you actually can usher in that world and people want to be in that world faster, better, and more effectively? Or is the world of the, Veruca assaults and bubble wrap going to be, the future? And I know that was a little bit of a deep cut, but
it's a good one. It was good.
To me, that's kind of what we're dealing with. And I know what side I'm on. I know it's important to me.
I think that's probably to close it out. That probably is that was even the reason we named it Human X. There's no AI in the title anywhere of this event or anything we're doing. That's because it is, to your point, I think many people are getting very enamored with the fact that we can replace humans with AI, which certainly in some jobs we probably should, because humans probably shouldn't be doing those jobs in the first place.
Right.
But I'm with you. To me, the notion that, and the reason we're doing Human X, it's human times technologies, human times AI. It makes us more human, makes us more powerful, and allows us to see things that, as humans, as biological creatures who have limited working memory and limited working sets, can't. And so whether it's someone's hidden talent that you don't know about, but that AI can figure out and connect you guys in that way, or finding a new way to do a catheter to reduce infections in the hospital, these are all things that we should be excited about and practical, and they are real business building technologies, and they're really business enhancing technologies. They aren't just, to your point, just crappy content generators. So I couldn't agree more.
Gina, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on and hearing more about how Mighty Networks is leveraging AI, and also how you were ahead of the curve. We're seeing a lot of companies just getting on board now, but kudos to you and your team for really recognizing this technology and how you actually have a legit use case. As Stefan was talking about, we want to really focus on the show, talking with the companies that are implementing, not AI for the pet food, right? Oh, we help you come up with the best pet. Well, actually, you never know. I don't know. There's some things that we'll look at. That.
Right. Well, I'll say this.
That's one of our big sponsors, by the way.
By the way, one thing I have to go, but one thing that I will add that I think would be really fun to do is some kind of what should exist. I'll give you there's so many AI enabled businesses that should exist that don't, or things that they're the first generation is just so stupid relative to what it will become. And it's just, you're harnessing this amazing set of people who have thought a lot about this, that there's a bunch of things that I'm once you understand what's possible, and as we do our practical application through People Magic at Mighty Networks, you kind of can't help but look at 80 other things where it's well, why do I have why am I copy and pasting from Claude over here, and why does this is stupid, we can do this better. And it's just such an interesting set of, I think, practical applications, and just a really fun time. And it's a fun time to be a part of yet another fundamental platform shift, that we now have enough experience with them because they've happened for a generation of people that, we've seen 4 of them. We've seen 4 of them. So it's being able to say, okay, and this is what is possible, I think is just a really fun, really cool moment.